Today is Monday, October 1st, 2018, and you're watching OC News. Coming up, people from all over the region are remembering the lives lost and those affected by the tragic Las Vegas shooting at the Route 91 festival 1 year later. President Trump's nominee for the Supreme Court, Brett Kavanaugh, is still awaiting the outcome of an FBI investigation.
Also, we take a look at the weather that is expected to change within the next few days with rain. Yes, we said rain.
And floating candles, wizards, and potions are casting a spell on people in the new exhibit in Corona del Mar. Find out what mythical creatures are flying around. OC News starts now.
Thanks for joining us today at OC News. I'm Ashley Anselin.
And I'm Leslie Kano. OC News is brought to you by the broadcast journalism students at Cal State Fullerton.
Today marks the anniversary of the Las Vegas Route 91 festival. 1 year ago, Las Vegas became the site of the deadliest mass shooting in modern U.S. history. Now, the city is hosting a series of events to remember the victims and bring hope and healing to a nation. John Lornick from CNN reports on the story.
The mood in Las Vegas has been somber, yet hopeful over the past few days.
Hard to believe it's been a year.
Survivors of the 2017 shooting at the Route 91 Harvest Music Festival have been gathering.
Standing stronger and standing together.
They are mourning those lost and trying to recover from that tragic night 1 year ago. 58 people were killed in what is the deadliest mass shooting incident committed by one person in modern U.S. history.
When I got the call last October, all I could think about is this is my city. This is our city. They need me, and I'm going in there to help.
It's very strange to miss 58 people you never met. I think about who they were, what they did. It's healing for me.
Able to sit down with Cal State Fullerton student and one of my closest friends, Bailey Galen, just a few hours ago. Bailey, thank you so much for being here today with us. It is the 1 year anniversary. 58 people died in Vegas today, and you were there. How do you feel today?
I feel very, very grateful just to have woken up this morning and to be able to be here and talk to you today.
And looking back on that day, what is one thing that you just remember consuming your body, that emotion?
Honestly, it would probably just be adrenaline, because I look back on my experience and I'm not too sure how I was able to climb a fence with barbed wire and be running for so long, over a mile. And I think that I think that would be it.
And what happened to you in that moment? Did you realize what was happening? What went on?
So when the shooting actually started, I was in a porta potty, which is very not a good place to be. I actually heard my boyfriend calling for me, which is how I was able to determine what was actually going on. So we began to run and we jumped the fence that was located right by the porta potties, and we just ran for our life and ended up actually hiding under a bush until we realized we were far enough away from the shooting, and then somehow, some way, ended in the top story of the Hooters Hotel until SWAT came by and cleared us and allowed us to go home.
And I remember that night because I was at our house and you were on the phone with Riley Carroll, who lived with me at the time, and I remember her talking to you and trying to get you through that. And how was having somebody on the phone with you being able to help calm you down? How did that help you? So
it was kind of funny looking back at it now that one of the first people to have called me would be my sorority president. However, it was absolutely terrifying in that moment because the only person I really wanted to be talking to was my family members. However, it was actually very humbling looking now back on it, that one of the first people to talk to me would be a friend. And I know I even reached out to you amongst many of our other friends in a group chat And that group chat, I unfortunately had to say I'm not sure if I'm going to make it out, but I'm so grateful that you guys were there and able to help me in the process.
I remember getting that text. That text was horrifying. And at that time, I was going to bed, and I had no idea what was happening, and you sent us that text, and I jumped out of bed and went back into the house, and that's when I realized that Riley was on the phone with you. But how long did it take you until you talked to your mom?
So when I was first running in the process after jumping the fence and just running, I began to realize like this could be my last moments. So I actually called my mom like running, but I just couldn't multitask in the moment and ended up hanging up on her. And then once we were hiding under the bush, I actually called my mom, and that's just one thing that will always haunt me, is just putting her through that, because she thought I was kidding at first until she heard the echoes of the booming gunshots behind me. So it's terrible.
And what about your recovery process? How did that go once you got home from Vegas? What were your steps?
So the first day, I was pretty much just a zombie. I don't really remember like who I was at that time. Like all I could think about was the fact that I was alive and so many people weren't. And I honestly didn't feel like I was worthy enough to be alive in that time, because survivor's guilt was a real problem for me. However, come like the second day, I realized I was like, I'm not going to let this person ruin my life. I'm not going to let him take away the things that I have began and where I am. So I actually went to school come Wednesday, and I was sitting in class, and again, I was still just a zombie version of myself, but I just went about my day-to-day tasks until it started to hit me, and that's when it all kind of set in that like I survived the deadliest modern mass shooting.
Well, I remember going through this healing process with you here and there. There was a time where you were very distant, where you needed your space to get your own healing done and things like that. And going through that process, how was it hearing people talk about the mass shooting for a while?
It was overwhelming, because there was so many of us there that all of us have different stories, and a lot of us all believed different things of how that night went, and to this day we still don't have the exact answer of what exactly happened that night. So it was frustrating at times, it was sad at times, it was angry. Like you just go through this whole process of grieving and just experiencing different emotions. And I do believe that I separated myself a lot of the time because I didn't want to drag those who weren't there with me down in my grieving process and experiencing the emotions, because I wasn't even really sure what I was going through.
Wow. And a really big topic that came out of the shooting was gun control. How do you feel about that now, surviving the biggest modern mass shooting?
So obviously this person had a predetermined plan, and I don't believe that all people who own guns have obviously that plan. I've grown up around guns, and I believe that that's the reason why I survived that night, was because I was able to determine the sound of gunshots versus the sound of fireworks, unlike a lot of the fellow people I was there with. And when I heard the pops, I knew to run, and so many others didn't know. And they sat there and they thought that it was something harmless. So I particularly do not know. I mean, it's difficult because so many people have such determining different conversations about it, but I in particular, I don't know. It's tough. Ugh.
It is definitely a hard topic to talk about and think about, especially since you've been through something like this. But thank you again so much for being here today with us. We really, really appreciate it.
A 13-year-old boy was attacked by a shark in Encinitas. He's expected to make a full recovery. Meanwhile, officers are still searching for the shark. The boy was lobster diving with two other friends when he was brutally attacked by a shark, leaving him with serious injuries in his upper torso. A kayaker heard the boy screaming, but he thought he was just having fun in the water. After a while, he heard the boy was asking for help, so he went up to him and helped him get out of the water while the shark was still chasing him. According to a spokesperson from Rady Children's Hospital in San Diego, they say the boy is in critical condition. Yesterday, California Governor Jerry Brown signed a law that would be one of the strictest net neutrality protections in the country. Here's Marciela Perez with more on the story.
The SB 822 law will not allow internet service providers to block or slow down specific types of content or applications, or charge apps and companies additional fees for faster access to consumers. The Department of Justice argues that the California law is illegal and has already proceeded to file a lawsuit against the California bill. Attorney General Jeff Sessions said in a statement, and I quote, "Under the Constitution, states do not regulate interstate commerce, the federal government does." So here I am with communications professor Frank Russell, and he just has some opinions on this new bill that was recently passed. And so, Professor Russell, do you think states should be allowed to make their own rules in regards to net neutrality?
Well, I think net neutrality is a good thing because it provides a level playing field on the internet for everyone. That said, I would rather the federal government set net neutrality rules. Under the Trump administration, the Federal Communication Commission disagrees with that. So for that reason, I am in favor of California and other states setting their own rules for net neutrality.
And we know that California is one of the largest economies here in the U.S. Do you think the decision for the state to sign this bill, do you think it's going to influence other states to maybe do the same?
Well, Washington State passed its own net neutrality legislation in March, and I think other states will follow. Most states, though, I don't think so, especially states that have a Republican governor or a Republican legislature, because they wouldn't want to go against the Trump administration.
And as consumers, we think that maybe this is positive because we will get faster internet. Do you think there's any negatives to this?
Well, I think the biggest negative is the uncertainty, especially with the Justice Department suing California over net neutrality. That might delay this protection for consumers for quite some time.
Thank you so much. And in addition, major broadband companies like AT&T and Comcast have begun to lobby heavily against this bill and say that this new law will result in higher prices for consumers. Back to you guys in the studio.
Next, we hear from Natasha Chen with CNN as she explains the new NAFTA deal between the U.S. and Canada.
Throughout the campaign, I promised to renegotiate NAFTA, and today we have kept that promise.
President Donald Trump says the newly named United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, USMCA, is the largest U.S. trade deal ever made. The agreement came together hours before the October 1st deadline.
There were a number of moments when the thing could have died. They kept picking it up, kept pressing the case.
The deal requires 40 to 45% of auto content be made by workers earning at least $16 an hour.
The most advanced protections for workers ever.
And requires more of a vehicle's parts to be made in North America in order for the car to be free from tariffs. Automaker Ford says it's very encouraged by this. Quote, "The benefits of scale and global reach will help to drive volume and support manufacturing jobs."
Dairy was a deal breaker.
In a win for the U.S., the deal will also open up some of Canada's dairy market to U.S. farmers that could produce better prices in the U.S.
Milk, butter, cheese, yogurt, and ice cream.
This deal must be signed by Congress within 60 days, a Congress that could include a Democratic-controlled House after midterm elections.
There could be Democratic support for this. There's a lot of things worked into these agreements with Mexico and Canada that are very helpful to workers and labor unions, for that matter. So let's see. We might be surprised.
In Washington, I'm Natasha Chen.
Now we hear from Drew Griffin with CNN as he explains the new reports involving the case around Brett Kavanaugh.
My White House will do whatever the senators want.
What Republican senators want, according to sources familiar with the discussions, is for the FBI agents to not be limited in their investigation. CNN has learned on their list P.J. Smith, Leland Kaiser, and Mark Judge, who, according to Christine Blasey Ford, were all at the party where she says she was attacked. They also want the second accuser, Deborah Ramirez, questioned. One of the most important of those is Mark Judge, Brett Kavanaugh's high school friend, who put his own hard partying exploits in a book called Wasted, and later posted a video tour of Georgetown Prep.
Let me show you something interesting. It's the Dean of Students' office. Spent a lot of time in there.
Judge says he may have been wasted, but disputes Christine Blasey Ford's allegation he and Kavanaugh were involved in assaulting her at a party. No other witnesses have corroborated Ford's story. The FBI has already interviewed Debbie Ramirez, who claims Kavanaugh, in a drunken stupor, flashed her at a college party. No other witnesses recall that event either. At the center of both, though, excessive high school and college drinking, which under oath, Judge Brett Kavanaugh says was to excess, but never out of control.
Have you ever passed out from drinking?
Passed out would be no, but I've gone to sleep, but I've never blacked out. That's the allegation, and that's wrong.
In addition to speaking to classmates who say Kavanaugh did drink to excess, CNN has spoken to a half dozen college and high school classmates of Kavanaugh who say they never saw Kavanaugh drink to the point of blacking out and never aggressive. That was contradicted this weekend by Chad Luddington, a Yale classmate who released this statement. At Yale, he writes, Brett was a frequent drinker and a heavy drinker. I know, he says, because, especially in our first 2 years of college, I often drank with him. He goes on to write, when Brett got drunk, he was often belligerent and aggressive. The Yale roommates of Debbie Ramirez, the woman claiming Brett Kavanaugh exposed himself at a party, said this about Kavanaugh at Yale.
He was a sloppy drunk. He was more interested in impressing the boys than he was in impressing the girls. I never saw him be sexually aggressive, but he definitely was sloppy drunk.
I was witness to the night that he got tapped into that fraternity, and he was stumbling drunk in a ridiculous costume, saying really dumb things. And I can almost guarantee that there's no way that he remembers that night.
No one CNN has contacted claims to be a witness to aggressive sexual behavior or even unwanted sexual advances by Kavanaugh.
Stay tuned as we learn more about the devastation that struck in Indonesia.
As well as Natalia explains the new Harry Potter world that is alive and ready to be observed in Costa Mesa.
Strawberries?
Okay.
Welcome back. We now turn to an alarming report from Indonesia as a tsunami and earthquake shook the country to its core.
Across Indonesia, a desperate scene after a deadly quake and tsunami left a widespread path of destruction. The death toll now tops more than 800 people, and Indonesian officials fear that number will likely climb even higher. That's because rescuers are desperately digging through the rubble, searching for survivors.
A baby boy in a drainage ditch, actually, was alive and was safe. Can't find the parents, but, managed to not perish in that.
On Friday, a 7.5 magnitude quake struck an Indonesian island and triggered a powerful tsunami. Cell phone video captured the moment the tsunami came ashore. Officials say the tsunami unleashed waves about 10 feet high and sent people running for higher ground. Indonesian authorities estimate that 2.4 million people were impacted by the disaster, and even the Red Cross is having a hard time reaching those who need it the most.
Roads are damaged, bridges are down, so it's hard enough to get into the major urban areas, but it's even more so difficult to get into the more remote, rural communities, rural areas, small towns that are farther inland.
Hundreds were severely injured, and thousands who survived are now homeless and struggling to find basics like food and water.
It's a very grueling, it's a very emotional experience for everybody that's involved, and it's still not finished.
I'm Kim Hutcherson reporting.
Grab your umbrella because we might just be seeing cold weather this week. Here's Christine Romero with the weather.
That's right, guys. Be ready to bring out your warm, fuzzy sweaters because you will be needing them sometime this week. But as for today, you will want to hold off to that. We are having highs of 92, and we are having humidity today with 32%, and sunset being at 6:35 p.m. today. And now looking at the week forecast, we do see here Tuesday we're going to be having cloudy conditions at 78. With Wednesday, that's when we're going to actually be seeing our rain coming into our cities, 73. And for Thursday up until Saturday, we're going to be on the 70s and will be partly cloudy. Now for our temperatures here on our East Coast, we're going to be seeing 40s, 50s, all below, all under cloudy conditions. And for our Midwest areas, we will be seeing here 30s, 90s, 44s, and it will be cold, but still on the humid side. That's all we have for today. Back to you.
Cardi B and Kanye both had big weekends. For more information on that and other entertainment is Jonathan Damon.
A famous rapper in the spotlight, and it doesn't have anything to do with her music. Fans cheered Cardi B on after she released by police in New York City Monday. She turned herself in for questioning, accused of being involved in a fight at a strip club. We're told the fight happened a little more than a month ago in Queens, New York. Police say the rapper and her entourage got into an argument with the club employee after suspicion of Cardi B's husband was cheating with one of the women. Police say chairs were thrown along with some bottles and the two bartenders were hit, but luckily there were no injuries, they were minor. Right now, it's unclear what role the rapper played in the fight, but she is facing charges, reckless endangerment, and assault. According to E! Online, in today's fragment television landscape, a hit is rare. A broadcast that actually grows in its second season is even rare. Yet, just what Fox has done with 911. The season 2 premiere of 911 grabbed 13.48 million multi-platform viewers and a big 3.4 rating in 18 to 49 demographic during that same time period. Those numbers will likely go up with week delayed DVR viewing is factored in. There's something for everyone in 911. Do you like police shows? Done. Soapy operas, family drama? It's there. Into crazy over-the-top 911 emergencies? It has more of them. Police straight-up fireman action? Yep, it's there. 911 airs Monday, 9 p.m. on Fox. On Monday's episode, help is not coming. The first responders continue to deal with the fallout of a huge earthquake and deadly aftershocks, including rescuing victims from collapsing high-rise hotels. Kanye West on SNL Saturday night to perform, according to TMZ, what didn't get to see. After guest host Adam Driver signed off, Kanye grabbed the mic and turned stage into a bully pulpit, bitterly complaining producers were trying to muzzle him and deny him free speech and expression. Kanye said he was pressured not to come on stage wearing what now is a Make America Great Again hat. He complained the liberal media, along with others, were painting a one-sided picture of the political landscape in America. Kanye vowed no one will tell him what to say or think. He mocked those who said he was in a sunken place and then drove into song. Adam Driver reportedly walked off stage after he stood awkwardly in the corner. A lot of people might have been upset with Kanye's mega fashion choice on SNL, but one person who's coming to his defense, none other than President Donald Trump. The president tweeted Sunday that no one no longer watches SNL and is called for a political ad for Democrats. He then shouts out Kanye for saying the word Kanye, who put the mega hat after the show, despite being told no, was great. He's leading the charge. And that's all for entertainment and news. Back to you guys.
Coming up next, we have Alex Lusting covering postseason baseball.
And behind the scenes of OC's newest exhibition.
What if you could invest in the future of kids, like a stock? Not the kind of stock that's about making money, but a stock for social change. A whole new kind of investment called Better Futures. When you invest, it helps kids go to college. Believe in us, invest in us, watch us grow. My name is Sydney, and I'm your dividend.
Hey, look, it's those guys. Are you good to drive?
I'm fine.
How many did you have?
I should be fine.
You should be.
Go and step out of the vehicle for me.
See ya, buddy. Good luck. So turns out, buzz driving and drunk driving, they're the same thing, and it costs around $10,000. So not worth it.
With an overview of tonight's game between the Brewers and the Cubs and more sports updates is Alex Lust.
Thanks, ladies. Happy first day of October, everyone. Personally, October is one of my favorite months of the year, and I bet none of you will guess why. You want a hint? It's because of sports. All my favorite sports are aligned this month, and they are hockey, playoff baseball, basketball, and football. Let's roll some footage from the highlights from this past weekend. We start with the highlights from the Brewers and Cubs game, which took place earlier, and is 1 of 2 games today for a tiebreaker. Christian Yelich gets the scoring party started at the top of the third when he hits an RBI single, driving in Orlando Arcia with 2 outs, which puts the Brewers up 1-0. Anthony Rizzo then hits an absolute bomb to right field at the bottom of the 5th, which ties the game up at 1 apiece. His homer was measured at 428 feet. Yelich would once again find his way to first at the top of the 6th with a full count. He ended up reaching base 3 of 4 times, and the Brewers won 3-1. Yesterday was Mike Scioscia's last game as the Angels manager after 19 years, and the team wanted to make sure his last game was a good one. Bottom of the 1st, and Jeffrey Marte goes yard with 2 outs, putting the Halos up 2-0. Next inning, Steven Piscotty ties it up with a 2-run blast off Shoemaker to left field. Let's take a listen to the bottom of the 9th for the final call of the season. Taylor Ward walks it off in the final game of the season as the Angels win 5-4. Congrats, Mike Scioscia, and an outstanding career with the Angels manager. Moving on to the NBA, LeBron James made his debut as a Laker, and what does he do? He drains a deep 3 as his first shot with the team. LeBron would go on to score only 9 points in the 15 minutes as the Lakers fall to Denver by a score of 124-107. Going into the NFL, Phillip Rivers and the Chargers took on C.J. Beathard and the 49ers at the StubHub Center in Carson. On the Chargers' first possession of the game, Rivers throws a pick 6 to Antoine Exum Jr., which puts San Fran up by the score of 7-0. The score at halftime was tied at 17 apiece. Going into the second half of the game, Rivers would pass to Melvin Gordon for a 6-yard touchdown, which gave the Chargers a 23-17 lead. On the next possession, Beathard would find tight end George Kittle for an 82-yard touchdown pass, which left them down by 2 points. Robbie Gould would later hit a 33-yarder, which put San Francisco up 27-26, but the dagger was a 21-yard field goal by Caleb Sturgis. The Chargers went on to win by a final score of 29-27. That's all we have for the world of sports. Back to Leslie and Ashling behind the desk.
Our reporter Natalia Shilaman has the latest on the Harry Potter themed exhibit in the heart of OC, Corona Del Mar. Let's check it out.
Kick off October right by heading to this boutique at Rogers Gardens of Corona Del Mar. Wander the different halls like the famous Myrtle bathroom and Dumbledore's study. Head merchant Hedda Steins shares what inspired the decor and how Hocus Pocus came to life.
Focus was inspired by a love of the Harry Potter stories, the Harry Potter books. Both myself and Eric Cortina, our creative director, are huge fans. We've read all of the books, seen all of the movies multiple times, and just feel that there's a lot of opportunity with the storyline. It's very detailed, a lot of expression, and a lot of things that we can play off of that work with Rogers Gardens in the bigger picture.
Every room is filled with decor inspired by the beloved film. In the Great Hall, you will be greeted by a large knight and skulls. Creatures are always lurking in the shelves. Steins tells us more about the favorite rooms.
The floating candles have had a lot of attention, and they spend a lot of time there. Also the herbology conservatory, because the mandrakes have probably been the hit of the year.
The best part is you can purchase these unique pieces just in time for Halloween.
Rogers Gardens has hosted Hocus Pocus or Halloween Boutique. Every year the theme changes. So this year it was Hocus Pocus, last year it was Magic and Mayhem, and next year it's a big surprise, so you'll have to tune in for that. But we've been doing it now for about 18 years.
Hocus Pocus will be open till October 21st, so don't miss your chance to explore where wizards and witches learn their craft. I'm Natalia Shilamon reporting for OC News.
This has been Leslie Kano
and Ashley Anslin reporting to you live from Fullerton.
Tune in next week through Instagram Live as we cover what's the latest as well as up-to-date news here at OC News.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.
OC News is sponsored in part by Univision Communications, Southwest Airlines, and Casanova McCann.